Welcome to the Podcasting Mentor Podcast, a podcast for entrepreneurs who are ready to stop hiding and start showing up on the right stages without the burnout. I'm Candace Dudley, podcast guesting strategist, and your go-to for turning interviews into your favorite marketing and networking tool. And guess what? My podcast guesting accelerator is now enrolling for summer. Yep, this is your sign to finally get off the sidelines and into the spotlight. Like my client, Kelly, who landed 8 guest spots in a single week after we worked together. She called it a no-brainer and said she'd 1000% do it again. That's the power of intentional guesting, and that's exactly what will help you do. Let's get brave, let's get strategic, and let's get you heard. Head to the show notes for more details on my podcast guesting accelerator. Welcome back for my second round of live coaching. We have Anne on today. I know you're a confidence coach and we met on social media, I think Threads and Instagram. So let's just dive in and hopefully come up with 3 speaking topics that you could go and run with and start booking podcast guesting spots. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little snapshot of who you are and who you help.
My name is Anne. I'm just starting out in my confidence coaching. It's kind of a fun story because I went from an extreme introvert that was terrified to even make eye contact. Even being here today, I can feel those feelings come up like, oh my goodness, this is so new. I went through my own journey and then coaching fell into my lap and I was like, I can help other women. I'm at a point where I feel like I have the confidence, the knowledge, the experience to help others. And I think that they need their own voice and to share it with the world. And they can make an impact.
Amazing.
So I got here.
I can totally relate, especially doing new things and being an introvert myself. So I'm glad that you're pushing into the comfort zone because I know from experience, I'm sure you do too, that things just get easier the more you do them and stretch that. And my first question is, what would you say is the number one problem that clients come to you with?
It's kind of funny because each client has their own set of inner blocks, their own mindset blocks. The main theme would be really feeling comfortable sharing what they want to share and how they want to share it, and not really having that permission to be able to get out of their shell, be able to really truly be who they are on the internet and in their business.
That makes sense. So the people you work with, do they all or typically have businesses, like they're entrepreneurs, maybe running an online type of business?
Yeah, that's what I focus on.
Okay, perfect. And then is there ever times when you hear maybe over and over like, oh, I've never thought of it that way?
One thing that just comes to mind, I got a DM the other day. It was about imposter syndrome. I was like, everybody experiences it. I've noticed the big coaches talk about it. And it was like, oh, I didn't know everybody still struggles with this, no matter where they are in their career. Yeah, that's a big one I see popping up all over.
Okay. Almost like people are stuck just in their own heads and in their own thoughts. And so then when they come to you, they get to say them out loud. They get to hear them for what they're worth and maybe lose some control or power that the thoughts maybe have on them. Tell me a little bit about your background or perspective in regards to what would make you different from other confidence coaches.
Gosh, going through so many different things, growing up in a small town where I was so worried that people would think about me or what they would think about me. Spending my entire life living somebody else's dream because I was too afraid to go after my own. So personally, I just know the experience of worrying so much about what other people think and not going after my dreams because of that and wasting so many years worried about that. Just having that experience and being able to relate to what my ideal client might be dealing with and, actually living it. Like I've changed my life. I gave up the picture perfect life on paper to live a life that I wanted to live, that others might not understand. Just living that, and I kind of want to take coming out on the other side because I feel like it's a continuous journey, but just being on the other side is just something that I can relate to. I understand that. I fully get that when somebody comes to me with an issue.
Right. So it's like you lived it. You went through it and then you're in a completely different place now. So you can really speak to that and you can really get people to where you are. You're the expert in that regard for the people that are looking for you. Do you have anything or you feel like it's a spicy take on things or advice that you give or tips that you have that maybe isn't the norm or that sometimes other people might think it's, controversial?
What I really base my teaching and my beliefs on is you need to change your mindset. You need to get to the very core of what's holding you back before you can start throwing different strategies or different practices at it. You really need to figure out what's holding you back. I like to focus on that. And then I also throw in the action part. And it's not like, okay, so I'm changing my mindset, but I'm actually doing the things that I don't really want to do because it scares me, but now I'm ready to do because if I really want change, this is what has to happen. I know sometimes there's different techniques you can use, like manifesting and breath work, and I believe in those things, but that's not the approach I take. Mine is get down to what's wrong and then do the stuff.
Pair it with the action. Right. Okay. So if we dive into what types of speaking topics, I'm thinking of like 2 to 3, they would be different. They probably have underlying themes that match, but we're going to say them differently if that helps. We've talked about confidence coaching, imposter syndrome, taking mindset, deep diving work, pairing it with action. Are there things or topics that jump out at you? Or are there topics that you just know you could talk all day about something or be really excited to talk about?
It's such a big thing to cover. Each client is different. Each problem is different. The big thing is doing the inner work, not just strategies. Also, a big thing that comes to mind is not really caring what other people think. You have to care less. I say that it's like you have to have a lot of passion about your business, but you have to put yourself first. You have to think about other people less. I know a lot of people have a hard time with that because they want people to like them. They want people to accept them. You kind of have to switch your mentality to like, I need to do this for me because I've been doing it my entire life and it hasn't been working. Well, those are good core beliefs.
And before we narrow those down, let's talk about what kind of offers you have. So do you have free resources? What does that look like? And then that sometimes can also help us piece together what would make sense to speak on a podcast about. Because like you said, it's big, it's broad, and every client is different. But when it comes to a podcast episode, the more specific we can be, the better, because that is how the host might refer you the next time someone comes to them with a question and you're top of mind, versus if we hit all the things, which doesn't mean you can't when you're in the business. But for the sake of guesting on a podcast, if we can narrow down a few topics, sometimes it helps to look at what offers and things you already have. So tell me about those pieces.
Right now, I have a free community focused on really building your confidence in your business, different practices, things that I find can be really helpful. But right now, I'm holding a free challenge in there. It's a free community, but it's a free challenge where it's like a selling challenge, but it's not how to sell, it's how to get over the blocks of selling, the mindset work, the practices that you can do. Maybe you're not selling the way you want to sell. Maybe you're not selling what you want to sell. We dive into that. That's what I'm currently focusing on. I'm also building out a free masterclass on confidence. That's in the very baby stages. And then I have a one-to-one coaching offer that is 6 months that we really deep dive into your blocks, your limiting beliefs, and then creating a plan on how to get over that and being able to show up as yourself online in your business, really just getting out of your shell. I believe 6 months feels like a long time, but it takes a long time to make these really deep ingrained changes.
Yes.
So it's not something where I'm like throwing you out into the world and being like, well, here you go.
That makes sense. That inner work is not a quick thing, usually. So it sounds like confidence for sure is something, showing up as yourself, that authenticity piece. So what do you think of something like why confidence is the missing piece in your business growth or your business success? I think of speaking topics as what you could title an episode, because that lets the host, like if you post it on Threads, which I think is where we first met, and you say, I'd love to guest on podcasts this year, here are some topics that I know I could bring a lot of value to your audience, and then you list them as titles, it allows a host that's scrolling like me to really quickly be able to say, yes, boom, that would totally fit my audience, or I haven't had a speaker on about that. And even memberships, a lot of people have monthly memberships and need different speakers. That would be a good way for someone scrolling to see that. So something like that where it uses the word confidence and it's specific to business success, pairing that. What do you think about that one?
Yeah. And as you were speaking, I have another thing that just popped into my mind that I would love to use as a speaking topic would be, and I know it's big right now, but it's why do people buy from you? That's been a thing I've been posting in my content recently, is because they like you, because you have something that they have the solution to your problem, but also so does a lot of other people at the internet. So why would they specifically buy from you? And it's because you're showing up as yourself online and they like something about you. I follow people because I like their vibe. They're magnetic. And the reason they're magnetic is because they're confident. They're being weird online. They're being themselves online.
Authentic.
Yeah, exactly. What's that missing piece? Maybe it's not your strategy. Maybe it's just you really need to get out of your shell and be yourself online. And that's tough. I don't say that easily because that's hard for a lot of people because that judgment does come. Those mean comments do come. So it's like a two-step process, right? Actually knowing you have to be yourself online and then figuring out how to do it.
I would totally agree. I'm a millennial. I think we're close in age. I'm probably older than you, but we grew up where we were supposed to fit in a box and kids were supposed to seen and not heard and those types of things that are ingrained in us, which I think the generations coming after us didn't have quite that much conditioning. Mm-hmm. I know for me, when I left teaching, it was really weird to start showing up online as not a teacher. Like when you're in teacher mode, you are in like, I am professional. I do not swear. Mm-hmm. I'm an elementary teacher. I need to like be almost like an actress.
Right.
But the truth is I like to swear. I totally think this is a great topic. I think it is easily relatable. Just going to be wording it in a way that someone with that type of struggle or stickiness in their business recognizes that, oh, it's me. I think that's sometimes the hardest part of being an entrepreneur is calling your offers or what you do and talking about it in a way that the person that needs it, that's 10 steps behind you, would have been thinking or talking or searching about it. I wonder then if a title for that would be like, why people buy from you, and then like semicolon, showing up as your confident self or showing up as the real you or something like that would be a cool title. It's the confidence piece and business growth, tying that together. Or even, like you said, adding in the showing up as yourself online. Even one like how to show up as your authentic self online to grow your business. Or you can have like taglines or colons in there. So it's like the main title, but then a little bit more. It helps identify or get specific. So that makes people easier to say yes to you when wanting to get on podcast. That's a good list. Those are good topics. I like it.
Yeah.
What questions would you have about any pieces about guesting, either the process or going about it?
Just starting out, how do you find people to collab with? Do you just reach out to somebody on the internet and be like, hey, I want to be on your podcast?
Yes. So a little bit of that. I've been hosting my own show for 4 years now. One thing not to do is pitch shows and send emails that you haven't listened to, because that's really easy to spot, copy and paste. Hosts get them all the time, even from other companies that pitch you something that's completely unaligned. And I just keep hearing more and more from podcast hosts that emails like that are going straight to the junk folder. So I definitely recommend DMs because it's more personal and authentic, but really it can be as simple as taking the topics that we just discussed and making a post and putting it on Threads saying, I would love to guest on podcasts this year. And these are 3 places that I feel like could really bring value, because it's all about value, right? Podcasting is serving someone's audience, keeping that in the main focus of your message when you do reach out to a host to really show that I am ready to bring value. I think what people are burnt out on podcasting and content in general is when we say we're going to give value and give tips, but then we just gatekeep. So having some things ready that matches these speaking topics that are some actionable things, which I know that from following you on social media, you have that and you share that already, but being ready to share that is going to go a long way. It can be as simple as making a Threads post. I always tell people, if nobody knows you want to guest on a podcast, you will not get to guest on a podcast. So there is a little bit of sharing that. But then as far as the process of finding shows, that can be a little bit tricky, because if you go search on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you're going to get those bigger shows, which you and I were more looking to those independent podcasts, like the smaller ones like us that are having this conversation today and have our own communities and niches. But definitely once you find a show, like if you find mine, you could go search it and see the guest episodes. There are some podcast hosts on there, and then you might jump over to their show and see if you have alignment there. That's the part that's a little time consuming, but that's also why I offer it as a service, because I have done that, and I have a directory of shows and what they're about. So you can hire someone to do that and speed that up, but really it's almost like a breadcrumb trail. Once you start, you'll start to uncover more and more and more. It's just finding those first initial ones that you connect with. And Threads has been a great place to do that. You can search on Threads, podcasters, podcast guests, that kind of thing. And you're going to get a lot of hits. Typically, you might even get applications for shows right away. So that's an easy thing to fill out. If you go to a show, you find them on Apple Podcasts. There's always links in their show notes. So if you can get over to the host's Instagram or website, you can find their contact info, or you can find an application link. If you've listened to the show, you've found that there's some alignment between your messaging. It doesn't have to all match. It shouldn't all match, but as long as their mission and your mission somehow match up, that's going to be a great union and connection there. To be in front of their warm audience is now get to be your warm audience. So in that case, if you've listened to bits of episodes, little pieces there, and checked on the alignment, it's totally okay to send a DM or even a voice note, because who's not going to open a voice note and be curious enough to be like, oh, I wonder what this person is sending me. And then they hear your voice, and you can get a lot more of a vibe check or a read on them when you hear that. And then that message should be short and sweet. You should show that you did your homework, mention why you feel you are connected and why you're reaching out and what you like about the show. Then follow it with, here's the value that I think I could bring your show. Those would be my recommendations, but definitely the first thing, go post on Threads, because you just never know how many people are going to be like, oh, or tag someone else that they're like, oh, you should be on their show. The ripples start to make it easier once you get the ball rolling in that regards. But in the beginning, it sometimes does feel like, oh, I can't find any place to start. So hopefully that helps.
And it can be a little scary starting out and reaching out to people, and maybe you get a no, and then you're like, oh no, I want to crawl under a rock.
Yes. Well, you will get no's. You will get ghosted. I have certainly had that happen. The thing that's been happening the most this past year has been on Thread. Literally, someone will write they are looking for podcast guests, and then I'll comment or I'll tag someone I know. And so it starts to make those connections. Threads is the place to start, and that's the place to make your post and do a little searching around. It's much more time consuming to hop around on podcasts, but that'll get you the ball rolling for sure. Your introduction today was good. Everybody's going to ask you to introduce yourself or share who you are and who you help. The thing to avoid is eating up like 5 minutes with an entire life story, because now you haven't gotten to the part that's the value, which is the part that's going to let you be seen and viewed as the expert and the authority. And that's the whole point and what you want to get to. So we can practice the outro, the ending here, and you can tell us where we can find you and a little bit more about your business and where we can follow along if people want to connect with you.
I'm on Instagram, Threads mainly now, posting like a crazy lady over there. But my handle is the.ank.co, and on both Threads and Instagram. I'm just excited to keep building my business and helping others. It can be a big movement to finally see women. Like you said, we're millennials and we've been playing small, and now here we are in our late 30s wanting to just like blow our entire worlds up. But we're scared to. I hope women do that. I hope women completely blow their lives up in good ways. We focus on the business part, but when you start building that confidence, even for your business, it goes into every area of your life. And it's a skill that is so valuable and it's so important to me. I'm such a feminist. I mean, I love men and women. I'm not like that kind of feminist, but women have such power when they have their voice, and especially with business owners, if you have that inner power, the inner voice that you can share and make money off of it, it's limitless. So that's my cause.
I love that. I'm going to link everything in the show notes too, so people can head there. And you're right. That's why I love podcasting. It gives more of us a voice, and the more confident we are, the more authentic we're going to show up. And if you can do that and reach more people by guesting on podcasts, what a great way to use your voice now in the confidence that you have and that you've done to get to this spot. It's such a good next piece to your business that you could add. Thanks so much for being on, and I can't wait to see your post on social media about booking your first podcast guesting spots.
Thank you so much.
All right, that's it for today. If this episode gave you a little aha, or you're thinking about guesting on podcasts now, I'd love to hear about it. Screenshot the episode, tag me on Instagram @CandiceDudley, and let me know your biggest takeaways. And don't forget to come back next Tuesday for another episode.